You know, when it's weekend, Sue Ellen Sanders is somewhere nearby. It's time for the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, letting you know what's going on across the Treasure Coast and beyond. Here's your host, Sue Ellen Sanders.
Thank you. Yep, I'm just hanging out at the studio, trying to give all the information that I can give. You know, it's dangerous when you know a little bit about a lot of different things. Sometimes you try to help people. Sometimes you try to correct people. Sometimes you just want to be the one that knows everything. And as a radio talk show host, that's kind of the way I feel. I've been doing this radio show for about 20 years, and a lot of times it turns out that I'm talking about things having to do with children or having to do with safety, because as a mom, those things were always really paramount in my mind. Those were priorities. And now my kids are grown-ish. And even if I had safety information, they wouldn't want to hear it from me. But for years, I counted on people like Stacy Carter with the St. Lucie Fire District. She is the fire and life, what's that word? Safety educator. She has it on her shirt. It's kind of crinkled in that part. But she's the educator who goes out, works with the public, works with the schools, and works with families to educate them about fire safety. So, Stacy, I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me.
And first of all, I want to say, as a educator, you have to go around and go out and talk to people all the time, and you really have that perfect, sweet, calming voice for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And what you do actually is go out to the schools or go out and to groups and talk to them about fire and life safety, right?
Yes, we have several programs through the fire district. One of them being we have a partnership with the St. Lucie County School Board, and through that I go out, and statistics show us that burn injury tends to happen in children ages 0 to 6 years of age. So those are my target audiences, and those are the audiences that I reach out to. So I do a lot of work not only in the school system but also in our preschools throughout our community as well. We also have a program for our 55 and older residents. It's called the Remembering When program. There are 8 fire safety tips and messages, and there are 8 fall prevention messages as well. And I go out and I speak mostly to the homeowners associations that we have throughout our community.
When we're talking about fire and life safety, people may think of some of the most obvious things like what to do if there's an actual fire in your home, but yet it's so much broader than that.
It is. We also have fire extinguisher training that we do as well. We have a simulated fire extinguisher training system where we can go out and bring the training to the businesses and the organizations.
So, you know, if you're somebody who is in a public place or school or a large area, or even if you're at home and you have a fire situation in your house or office, you won't hesitate to pick up that fire extinguisher because you will know how to use it. But there are a lot of other ways that people can get burned that can be very serious, and that's a lot of what you talk to the little kids about.
Right, I do. Well, Burn Awareness Prevention Week is going to start February 2nd through February the 8th. We are also having our first open house on February the 7th. So we're going to have a lot of information about fire and burn prevention at our open house, and I'll give you a little bit more information about that in just a moment. But you're absolutely correct, Sue Ellen. Cooking, unattended cooking, is the #1 cause of residential home fires. Cooking can also cause harm to children. one of the safety tips that we like to go out and we like to tell the community is that you need to have a 3-foot space around your oven, around your stove, a safe space, so to speak, that your children are not allowed to enter into when you are cooking on the stove. You want to make sure that your handles for your pots and your pans are turned toward the back of the stove. Children are curious. They have a natural curiosity. They may come up and pull on that pot handle and end up pulling the hot contents down onto them.
When really they only wanted to see maybe what you were cooking.
Right. So it's very important to educate your children, communicate with your children, let them know the dangers of cooking and what can happen to them in order to prevent those types of situations.
While we're talking about stovetop safety, I'll just ask you about a couple different situations that we had, or are pretty common, I think, to everybody's daily activities. We were making popcorn when my kids were little, and we were doing it the old-fashioned way, and I was holding a child and tried to put her down for safety and put her down in the middle of the floor and of the kitchen floor, and she was not out of a safety zone area, and the popcorn popped out of the pot, and the kernel hit her on her chest and stuck there. And so I knew that it was burning hot and that it was burning her, and she still has a little bit of a scar there, but it hasn't turned her off popcorn at all. But you don't think about things like that. Popcorn that splatters, oil that splatters.
Right, absolutely.
Other foods that, when you're making spaghetti sauce and you're supposed to have it at a low boil and then you turn it back and that splatters.
Right. And it's also a good idea to keep those things that you were talking about. If you're, cooking a sauce or you have, oil on the stove, put them on your back burners so that way they're away from the front of the oven or stove.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is cooking hard-boiled eggs, because I know a ton of people who have eggs remnants on their kitchen ceilings from setting eggs on the boil and on a high heat and forgetting about them and walking away and doing something else in another room, and you don't remember them until you hear a big loud pop and then the smell of burnt egg.
Right. And so that's the reason why the number one cause is unattended cooking. So it's very easy to do. It's very easy for us to get distracted. We hear something on television and we're interested in, seeing what's going on, but it's always great to set a timer. Get yourself into a habit that before you walk away from that stove that you set that timer, whatever it may be, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Some people have Alexa in their home, so they could ask Alexa to set the timer for them. So I would recommend definitely setting a timer. And 2, we want to make sure that all of our residents have smoke alarms in their home. So a smoke alarm should be installed in every sleeping area in your home. So every room where someone that you love is sleeping, there should be a smoke alarm in that room. There should also be one in a main living room area, and you should be testing those once a month to make sure that they're working properly. That's what the National Fire Protection Association recommends. So once a month testing the smoke alarms, and then every 6 months changing and replacing the batteries in the smoke alarm. You can try to remember to do it when we change the time on our clocks, when we fall
because
back
that's
in the
every
fall.
6 months.
Right.
How
And
about
spring forward in
testing
the
them?
spring.
How I hate to ask you the question, how do you test them? Because then it's going to be obvious that I've never tested mine.
Well,
But
right. Well, it's good that I'm here today,
Yeah.
right? So tonight when you get
yes,
home,
I'm going to be testing it.
right?
Yeah.
So every alarm has the face, which is the front of the alarm, and there is a little button on the face of the alarm. So what you have to do is push that button in, hold the button down and wait for it to make the beeping sound. And if it makes the beeping sound, then you know it's working just fine. Now, if your alarm starts chirping, then it's letting you know something's wrong. I need my battery changed.
Oh, I know that
And
sound.
and if your alarm is over 10 years old, you should replace the whole thing. Just discard it and get a new alarm. Because what happens is they're hanging on the ceiling, they're high up there, they're getting dust particles inside of them, and so they may not be functioning and working properly the way that they should after the 10-year time span.
So you should test your smoke alarms monthly.
Yes,
You should
test them
replace
monthly.
the batteries every 6 months, and you should replace the whole smoke alarm about every 10 years.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about appliances in other parts of your house, because I'm not sure what is an old wives' tale and what's not, but I was trained not to leave the dryer running unattended, like go to bed at night, and not to turn the dishwasher on and leave the house. Those two appliances.
Right, and you were trained correctly, Sue Ellen.
Oh,
I do-
yay for my mother.
I do the same exact
Yeah.
thing, because if your lint filter gets blocked, or the chute that's going outside gets blocked from the dryer to your outside vent, that can easily cause a fire. So you always want to make sure that you're cleaning that dryer vent, and that you're having someone come at least once a year to clean your outside air vent that leads to your dryer. You want to do that. And then with the dishwasher, it could be very easily, a lot of times, people put plastic Tupperware type products in the dishwasher, and it's okay if you put them on the top rack, but what happens is sometimes they're very light and they can fall down, and they can fall on those bottom burners on the bottom of your dishwasher and cause a fire.
Because the plastic is
Yes,
melting
yes,
and hitting
because
the heat
plastic-
element.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So yes, you never want to run your dryer when you're not at home, or your dishwasher.
And so easy fixes to both of those, if you're awake in your home. And sometimes it's frustrating because you may want to turn the dryer or the dishwasher on right before you go to bed.
Right.
But I have visions of that This Is Us. Do you remember? I'm sure you've heard stories about the crock pot
I did.
situation. In the TV series, This Is Us, when he leaves an old crock pot that has issues with the cord plugged in overnight, and it creates the fire. And
Did the cord happen to be frayed?
yes, it
Yes,
was. It
yes,
was.
yes.
It was.
If you
I
have-
mean, I wasn't there, but I
Right,
watched the
right.
TV show.
If you have any electrical
Yes.
cords in your homes that are frayed, you have to get rid of them, because that's a fire just waiting to happen. Because what you have is you have your heat. We have our oxygen in the air. There's 3 elements to start a fire: heat, fuel, and oxygen. So with the crock pot and the frayed cord, the fuel was the countertop that it was sitting on. The oxygen, you only need 16% of oxygen to start a fire. There's 21 in the air around us. So you've got that element there. So you've got the fuel, you've got the heat, and you've got the oxygen. And that's really all it takes to start a fire. So any frayed cords that you may have around your home, get rid of them.
Well,
Replace them.
What about cords that have, say, been chewed on by a puppy?
Yes, I would definitely get rid of them and replace them, because they're still going to be, defective.
Yeah.
They're almost defective now. So, and you wouldn't want something to happen just because you didn't want to replace the cord because maybe it was attached to something newer.
Right.
It's best just to be safe and to get rid of that cord and replace it. You can actually put your cords behind furniture, so that your animals, children don't get to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, hide them from
Right, hide
the
them.
mall. So the worst happens, and you see a spark start to generate and a little fire start. What is the first thing you should do?
Well, the first thing you should do is, if you have a cloth, a towel or something nearby, if it's a small spark, you could put that cloth or that towel over it to smother it, because we're smothering the oxygen. We're not allowing the fire to get any more oxygen. So that should put it out. I recommend that homeowners have fire extinguishers in their home. You can purchase a 10-pound fire extinguisher at any of our home improvement stores, Walmart, Amazon. They run anywhere from about $20 for the 10-pound, and then they go up in price. But having a fire extinguisher in your home would help you in a situation like that. Fire extinguishers should only be used for the beginning stages of a fire. And if you're comfortable and feel confident in putting it out, then you could put the fire out. If it starts to grow and you don't feel comfortable, you always want to make sure you have your exit way behind you, because you don't want to block or trap yourself in. Have an exit way behind you. Get out and call 911, and the professionals will come and put it out for you. But you could smother the flame, and you could also use a fire extinguisher.
So if it's an electrical fire, can you throw water on it yourself?
Absolutely not. No, electricity and water do not mix. And with the fire extinguishers, they have different classes for our different types of fire. They have an A fire extinguisher, which puts out wood and paper fires. They have B fire extinguishers. You can think about contents in a barrel, like our gas and our paints and oils, anything that's flammable. And then C fire extinguishers put out electrical fires. But they also have a multi-purpose extinguisher, so it's A, B, and C. So
that's what I need.
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend most homeowners
I didn't know
getting.
that there were differences, because every time my daughter has moved into a new apartment, which has just been a couple times, that's the first thing we did, is we went on Amazon and sent her a fire extinguisher.
Nice.
Because they don't automatically come with every place that you move into. And we thought that would be, at least as her mom,
it's a
makes
great
me
thing
feel.
to have. Yes, absolutely.
Also, when you have a grill or something like that, you never know when you're going to have an out of control fire, or a fireplace, or
right,
some other live fire that is around your house. There's just so many different ways to get hurt.
There are.
It's kind of scary.
It is. But if if you're safety smart, and you think you make a conscious effort, to think about being safe, you can always visit our website. We have tons of fire safety tips to help you out. Our website is www. It's the abbreviation for the St. Lucie County Fire District. So it's S for Saint, L for Lucie, C for County, D for District, and F for Fire.com.
And you can also link to them. I'm sure you can just put in your search engine, St. Lucie County Fire District,
yes,
and get in that way as well.
We have our own Facebook page that you can follow us on, where our PIO, Brenda, she does a fantastic job with posting current safety tips for the month. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
So you could check any of those ways and link up to, whatever is particularly the safety tip for that month. Because you have different safety months where you feature.
We do. February, of course, is Burn Awareness Month. In the summer, we start to talk about children being left in hot cars and how you can prevent that. We give you some really good safety tips on that. We also talk about drowning, swimming. We want to prevent drownings from happening. We also post where the free swim lessons are for the summer. We have them at all of the community pools in our area. So at the Lincoln Park pool, they offer swim lessons. They also offer them at Ravenswood and the pool out in Lakewood Park. You can also visit Safe Kids Worldwide, and we have a Safe Kids coordinator right here in St. Lucie County. Her name is Rhonda.
We do, and
yes.
I go to her meetings, and the coalition meetings are very informative, and she has a lot of great information.
Yes. So you can also visit their website as well.
And I'm sure that you help carry the word about some of those safety issues that the Safety Coalition is addressing as well. But one of the things that really hit me hard was when she had when Rhonda had showed the video about the battery, the little teeny round battery, and the dangers that it poses to little kids and pets.
Yes, they are very dangerous, and they should be kept out of a child's reach. So I would keep them locked up in a cabinet or a drawer that a child does not have access to.
What's scary, though, is sometimes things that are remote controls and cell phones and so forth, that things that you give your kid to play with to amuse themselves might have this type of batteries or small enough batteries where it's deadly.
Right.
For
And that's where supervision, comes into play. You really can never take your eyes off of your child. You constantly have to be, constantly have to have someone watching them always.
So, Stacy, I know you have at least one child because you referenced him earlier in our conversation. How do you keep from smothering your children, but yet make them be aware of all of the safety knowledge they need to know?
Right. I think the best thing to do is just educating them. And really, I don't think it's smothering. I think it's being helpful. We want to put our children in a position where they are safe throughout their life. So we're giving them the tools. And I think as parents, that's our job. That's what we have to do. We have to give them the tools so that they can be safe, and we have to educate them. And then we let them also figure certain things out on their own as they get older. My son is into adulthood now. So
he survived. You did
survived.
something right.
He survived, and he got smothered a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll bet. When my daughter takes things really, if someone's an expert and they tell her something, she really takes it to heart. And she came home from having a fire safety educator talk to her, and she put a fire ladder on her Christmas list that year because her bedroom was on the second floor, and she wanted to make sure that she had escaped. She didn't say anything to us about it.
Right.
She just put it on her Christmas list and told Santa Claus,
And
which...
For me, I think that's awesome because that's my job. I'm the one that gets out there, and I'm the one that, gives people the information, and I'm hoping that they're going to go home and that they're going to, take what I said and really listen and go out and get the smoke alarms and test them and the safety ladders and all the other equipment.
So what are the main issues that you address when you go out into the schools with the young kids? Because beyond the kitchen safety that we addressed and appliance safety, there are a lot of other safety measures and fire safety information that they need to know. What are the top suggestions that you make to them?
Well, one of the biggest things that I've really been focusing on this year is teaching the children how to make a home fire escape plan. So we provide them with the home fire escape plans. They just have to go home and sit down with their families and make the plan. So we talk to them about drawing all of the bedrooms in their home, making sure that they know at least 2 ways out of every room in their home if that's possible. We also teach them that their doorways and their windows are their exit ways out, and to practice opening those doors and those windows, because if there was a real emergency and they needed to get out, we know that they would know how to do that. We talk to them about having a safe meeting place outside. We talk to them about calling 911 and the steps that they should take, knowing their address, looking around and being observant as to their location. Maybe they're not at home. Maybe they're calling us from a cell phone, so they need to be aware of their surroundings if they can't give us an exact address. So those are some of the things that we talk about. And one of the things I think that is really great for us is several years ago in 2005, the fire district wrote a grant to get a safety house. And so FEMA provided us with a safety house that we take out to the schools. And it's really a mobile classroom that the children can come inside, and it has simulated smoke. So it's a fog mister, but what's really good about it is that when the fog comes out, it behaves exactly like real smoke would. The children are able to see it rise to the ceiling, and they're able to see that there's a fresh clean air down on the bottom of the room. And that's where we practice getting low and crawling to the exit ways out. So the children are able to either go out the back window, there's a ladder there, and there will be an adult supervising them out the back window, or they can go out through the back door. It also has a heated door, and we teach children that if the door feels hot, if they touch it with the back of their hand, that they know that the fire is going to be very close, if not right on the other side of that door. So they do not open that door, and they have to choose one of the other exit ways out in the room. The National Fire Protection Association started an initiative. It's been about a year and a half now that they've had it, but they've actually done research where they've set up 2 bedrooms that are completely the same right next to each other. One of the bedroom doors was closed.
I was just going to ask you about that, the close the door thing.
Yes, it's called close before you doze. So that's something else that I teach the children too. And a lot of them will say, well, I'm afraid of the dark, and I say, get it, you can get a night light. I still sleep with a night light.
But so I didn't mean to, but I cut you off when you were telling the rest of the 2 bedrooms side by side.
Yes.
And so the door that is closed.
The door that was closed, the flames did not enter, and it looked completely the same. The bedroom door that was open was completely, things were in ashes, things had smoke and soot all over them, and some of the furniture was even completely destroyed.
And, you've got to think, if you had a child or yourself inside one of the rooms, the difference that extra time would have given you to get out of the house.
Right, absolutely, because we only have 2 minutes. From the time your smoke alarm goes off, within 2 minutes, the smoke can fill up the entire room. So you really only have 2 minutes or less to get out of your home and escape a fire. We also talk to children about the importance of not grabbing anything. Just get yourself out,
I bet that's really hard for kids, though, who are very connected with some of their things.
Right.
Or pets.
Yes, and with the pets, if their grown-up is there, it's the grown-up's responsibility, to get the pet. But with pets, if you have dogs, they're so smart. They sense danger. If you're home, I am almost positive that pet is going to be following you out, if not waiting at the door for you, if something were to happen. But to put everyone's mind at peace, we also have pet finder window stickers that we have at the fire district and that we take out to our open house and out to community events that you can place right on your front window. And if you're not home and something happens, the first responders, our firefighters, know that there's a pet inside. And then they're going to go in with their cameras. They have thermal imaging cameras that detect body heat from a human, from animal, and they will be able to find that pet.
So you can be sure that either your adult, as you said, or the firefighters that are responding are aware of the pet too. But as you said, especially with the child, the other thing I've seen with the simulators that show is the kids, if they don't know what to do and they want to hide from the fire, that's the most dangerous thing.
Right. You should never hide. There's a little rhyme that I use. It says, don't hide, always get outside. So we emphasize that too. And one of the things that we do when we go out to the schools is I will do the presentation portion of the program, and then I'll have an engine with our crews meet me there, and they dress up in their bunker gear so that children can see what a firefighter looks like dressed up in their gear so that they're not afraid.
Right, because actually a firefighter dressed up in their gear, that's big, heavy gear. It's a big uniform. Their face is covered,
Right, and they
and you
look
don't
different.
see. Yeah, they don't look like they're really a somebody's mom or dad. So
Right. And so we let the firefighters, we show the children what a firefighter looks like in their regular uniform,
hmm
and then we allow that firefighter to get dressed up piece by piece. And so I will talk to the children about why they have to wear those boots, to protect their feet, because when they're going into the homes, there could be nails and sharp glass, sharp objects on the ground. So each part of their gear serves a purpose and keeps them protected.
and then the kids knowing, hopefully they'll never have to face a firefighter in full dress. But if they ever do, and the firefighter is trying to get them to come to them or trying to pick them up from their bedroom, they're not going to run and hide in the closet because they're afraid of the monster.
Right, right. They know that that's a firefighter just dressed up in their gear, and they know that the firefighters have to wear that gear to protect them when they go into a burning building or a burning home.
So the safety. Do you educate as well on other things other than fire safety? Then you talked about pool safety.
Yes.
You talked about some of the other things that you address during different times of year. But here we're in Florida. Pool safety and water safety is something that our children need to be aware of. Uh, every month of the year, really.
Right, you're absolutely correct. We're very fortunate because here in St. Lucie County, we have the Safe Kids Coalition, and I partner with Rhonda. And during the summer, when we have our summer camps, Rhonda and I do the YMCA. We do a lot with the Boys and Girls Club. We also have a partnership with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers. Rhonda and I team up, and we go out and I'll teach the fire safety portion of it, and Rhonda will do the swim and drowning prevention safety. So the children, when they come to a station tour, they're kind of getting they get a VIP pass for safety that day because they get to learn about fire and swimming.
Well, this might be a good opportunity for us to mention the future safety village that Rhonda and all of the law enforcement officers and the Round Table of St. Lucie County and our other sister counties are spearheading, because in the future there's a vision and there's actually a layout and a plan for a safety village.
Right, and the fire district is really excited about that because the fire district is going to have our mascot is Felix the Fire Fox, and so we're going to have Felix's house at the safety village. So what the children will be able to do is they will be able to come into the house, and the house will be set up where there will be different types of displays that will be set and geared towards safety. So maybe if we walked through the living room, we could look around and maybe there's a shirt or a piece of clothing over the lamp. So we would discuss how that was not safe. So they would be able to point out, what the safety hazards are in the house. And then we're also going to have simulated smoke in the house. And so the children are going to be able to practice get low and go and crawl under the smoke in the house. And we will also have safety mats in the house where the children will also be able to practice stop, drop, and roll. So they will know that if they ever get fire on their clothing, that the action that they need to take is to stop, drop, cover their face, and roll. So we'll be able to practice several different fire safety tips with having the house and having the children come to us.
That's awesome. And I know that there's visions. Part of the vision is the traffic safety. The kids are going to have little cars. They bebop around. And there's the water safety. But you also have, you'll be able to offer adult education for, as you said, the older adults who sometimes may not be aware of ways to keep safe, or may have forgotten, or there are new ways that weren't around. I can remember growing up before safety belts were required in cars, and not every single car had them. And I had a mother who was, there's a seatbelt in your car you're going to use wherever you get in the car. And I had a father who was a retired lifeguard who said if you have a seatbelt on and you drive off a bridge into water, you're not going to be able to get up. Out. So we had a situation where mom was saying one thing and dad was saying another thing, and we all kind of grew up, on the put your seatbelt on, but just don't let dad see you're doing it. But, as far as the whole seatbelt thing, things change over the years. Knowledge is increased over the years, and I'm sure if my dad was around now, he would admit that the chances of getting into a car accident where you could get injured are far greater than the chances you're going to drive off a bridge.
Right.
So so what's the bridge situation? If somebody has their seatbelt on when you drive off a bridge, should you release it as you're going down? Do you know the answer to that, or do I need to talk to Rhonda?
No, if you can think to do that, some people panic, and the most important thing in any type of emergency situation is to stay calm. But they also have great tools now. Actually, Rhonda gave me one. It's a little safety tool that you can stick onto your window, and it shatters the window for you. It has a little metal tip. It's a little device with a metal tip on the end of it. And it also has a seatbelt cutter. But for going off of a bridge, if you can leave it in your center console or leave it somewhere that's close to you where you know where it is in your vehicle, then you could always reach over, grab it, and use it to break your window.
My dad would have been really excited to hear about that.
Yes.
Yeah, because safety was big in his mind too, but he just had, he was thinking about the drowning issue.
Right.
And
it was a different generation.
Yeah, it was a different generation. Right. So anyhow, the Safety Village will address all members of the population and give them great information. That's not, I don't think they've even selected a site yet. They're looking at sites. So we're still a few years down the road on that one.
Yes, we are. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that there is an open house coming up. I'm probably going to use this show again because it's got a lot of great information beyond the open house. So let's talk about the one that is coming up right away, but then also talk about some of the others that are coming up in the future.
Sure. So our next open house is going to be on Friday, February the 7th, and we have our open houses from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's going to be located at Station 2, which is at 855 Seaway Drive. So if you just come up over South Bridge and you make a right-hand turn after you get off of the bridge, we're going to be right there. There's a big sign. It's St. Lucie County Fire District, and Brenda always puts out the signs for the open house.
So you can find it easily.
You can find it easily. And we also have, I forget, he's a balloon man. And he sways like you would see at the car dealerships. Yeah. We have one of those. I forget what the correct terminology.
We'll call him a balloon man, and people will know what to look
He's
for.
He's a big red with yellow hair. He kind of looks like a French fry.
Yeah.
So
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, he'll be out there waving around. But what's really great about the open houses and what makes it a lot of fun is that you can come, you can talk to the firefighters. We'd be able to answer any questions, that you may have about the district or about fire safety. You can come and take a tour of the station, come check out the engine, look at all the tools that the firefighters carry on the engine, get into the back of the rescue truck. It really gives you kind of a hands-on experience. And for the kids, it's a lot of fun because Miss Brenda will get a bounce house as long as the weather is good and it's not raining. And we have several other community community organizations that come and join us. Rhonda comes from Safe Kids. We have the Sheriff's Department that partners up with us, and other local hospitals that come as well. So it's really a night of fun, and we've been lucky enough to have local restaurants cater the food for us. So we feel very fortunate in that. But it's a fun night, so you can just come and hang out with us and
So
have a good time.
5:30 to 7:30.
Yes, from 5:30 to 7:30 on Friday night, February the 7th.
And that's the next one that's coming up.
That's
but
the next
you
one.
have them pretty frequently.
We usually have a one a month, sometimes two a month. We'll run them until May, and then we take a little break for the summer, and then we start them back up again in October during our fire prevention week. So we'll have our next one is February, but then we have one that's coming up in March, and I'm not sure of the exact date on that one, but you can always go to our website, and we have a calendar right on the front page. It's going to say events and calendars. Click on that, and the calendar is right there.
And you actually, there's a flyer that went out and preceding the 1st October open house that has all the dates of all the open houses. So it's something you can easily download. And then
Yes.
if you have social media where you're connecting with a lot of other people, go ahead and share that on
Absolutely.
your social
And
media.
if you can't make it to two, we have them at the fire stations that are most busy and in the in a community. So if you can always come to the one that's closest to your house, but if you can't make it, then you can come to another one. So whichever one is convenient for you to attend.
How many different station houses are in St. Lucie County?
We have 17 fire stations
Wow.
throughout St. Lucie County. So that includes our Fort Pierce City and Port St. Lucie. And we also have over 400 firefighters that serve us.
And of course, it's 24/7.
24/7, yes, absolutely. 365 days a year. They're going to be there on the holidays. They're going to be there whenever you need us.
So beyond child safety and fire safety, a lot of times you're afraid to call for a fire issue or a safety issue because you don't think it's important enough.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when something is enough of a crisis to call for help?
Well, if it is an emergency, if you're if you're sick, if you're injured, if you've been in an accident, those would be things that you would need to call us for. We also have a non-emergency line, so if you have a situation that you're not really sure if you should call 911, then you can call that non-emergency number, and we would be able to help you.
My daughter lives in Virginia now, and actually there's a fire station right down the street, and her carbon monoxide was I can't remember. Does it go off? Does it beep?
Yes,
It was
yes, it does.
and she didn't know why, and she and her roommates were determined that it was not a big deal because they couldn't smell anything in the house, and they just were going to replace it. And then they called the landlord, and the landlord said, "Oh no, call the fire department because you won't smell it
Right.
when there's an issue."
Yes, carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas that can be very, very deadly. So if it was something like that, you would definitely want to call 911, and the firefighters would be able to come out, and they would be able to test the air quality if your carbon monoxide alarm was going off.
What are some of the other types of emergency situations that people that may not be immediately obvious that it's a danger, but people should know to call, like something like the carbon monoxide situation? What are some of the hidden dangers? That's a good question,
Yes.
isn't it? Sorry. So what are some of the things that aren't immediately evident that can create a life changing situation that people don't realize are dangerous?
Right. I can't think of it.
Okay, well, the carbon monoxide. How about like if there's a snake in your yard or
Well-
on your porch or in your house?
Yeah, well, depending on what type of snake it is, here in Florida, we have various
I
snakes.
know we have like hundreds.
I would avoid all of them, but you have to know which ones are poisonous or not,
Yeah.
and then that would be a call to animal control.
But 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 what if animal control didn't respond? Because I know we thought we had. My husband was out of town. We thought we had a rattlesnake on the back porch. My neighbor had come over and she determined it was a rattlesnake because she heard it making the rattle. So she called 911. And then another neighbor came over and determined it wasn't a rattlesnake. So we called and canceled the 911 call. But if it's an emergency situation and you're in a dangerous situation,
Well, you can ask for what happens when you call our dispatching center. They're going to ask you, is it fire rescue, or is it police? Now, that would be more, the snake situation would be more of a call for the police to handle.
I see.
Unless someone was bitten by the snake, and then that's when it would become our call.
Right.
So the police would handle that situation, and then the police have partnerships with animal control and things of that nature.
So basically call 911 and talk about what the situation is, and then they get to decide who gets the call
And
from
they'll
there.
decipher it.
Yes.
But be sure that it is an emergency situation. When you are calling 911, if you're cut and you're bleeding, severely, and you're applying pressure and it's the bleeding isn't stopping, then that would be something that you would want to call 911 for. If you had a nosebleed and the same thing was happening, you were leaning forward, you kept pinching your nose, but it still wasn't stopping, then those are things. The loss of blood, those would be things that you would call 911 for.
But not things that are situations that you could handle with just a neighbor or a friend or somebody in your family handling it for you.
Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you run the gamut of different age groups. You mostly work with the school district and with the
Yes.
younger kids, and
Yes.
a lot of the situations are repetitive that you're talking about with the younger kids. There's so much information. What do you talk about with the seniors when you go and talk to them? What are the priorities there?
The program that I have is a fire and fall prevention program, and it's sponsored by the National Fire Protection Association. It's called Remembering When, and we go over 8 key fire safety messages. So we talk about never leaving cooking unattended. We also talk about having a fire extinguisher in their home. I also train them on how to use them. We mention if they're smokers, to make sure that they're using deep ashtrays, and to make sure that the cigarette is completely out before they go to sleep or go to bed. We talk to them about cooking, and if you're taking medications and you start to feel drowsy, please don't continue to keep cooking. To wear not loose clothing when you're cooking, no robes, but maybe short sleeves,
Because
or
the
tight-fitting
sleeves
clothing.
can catch
Yes, the sleeves
fire.
can catch
Yeah.
fire when they're cooking. So those are just a few of the safety messages as far as fire goes. And then we also talk about falls. We talk about how important exercise is. As we're getting older, we're losing muscle, and how important it is to get out there and walk. Lift some little small 1-pound weights. You can do that sitting in your chair, if you're able to do that, or just do a couple arm exercises. Just anything to keep your body moving, because that's very important as we get older. And exercise also helps with your coordination. And so that can help to prevent falls as well. I talk to them about having, their home well lit at night, so that they can get up and see where they're going. Not to wear socks, but if they have socks or slippers that have the plastic soles on the bottom, or the little cushion, the little disc on the bottom, to where they don't slip, non-slip soles.
Because I know a lot of not so old people who have gone down their entire staircase because they were wearing socks that slip.
Right. So socks are no good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get, the proper shoes. Even when you're out and about, if you're out doing shopping, do not wear open-toed shoes or the like the sports sandals that have no backing. So you want to have a shoe that totally covers that's closed in, covers the front of your foot, the back of your foot, to avoid any type of tripping hazards. Also, not to run electrical cords underneath your rugs in your home, because that can be a danger as well.
Oh, wow.
Not only is it a tripping hazard, but what happens is after time, you're walking over that cord and it's getting frayed underneath.
And you don't even realize it because you can't see it.
Exactly. So you have a potential fire hazard there from that.
So a lot of great information. And if people want you to come and speak to their homeowners association or their group, how do they do that?
We have a public relations and public education request form online. So you would have to go on our website, www.slcfd.com, and you go out to the top of the page. It says Our Community. Hover over Our Community and you will see Programs and Services. Click on Programs and Services and the form is right there. So all you would have to do is fill it out, submit the form, and it gets approved by our district chief and comes to me for scheduling.
That's great. So you can get this whole radio show information safety guide delivered to your group or organization or your kids group.
Yes.
Stacy Carter is the fire and life safety educator with the St. Lucie County Fire District, and she's taken the time to come here today to give you just a glimpse into what we have to do to stay safe and how to prevent burns for February Burn Safety Awareness Month. You've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We're here every weekend with great information. We'll see you next week with more.